Okay, I believe we are live. We have Amit from Car Care Nut, and so big welcome. I'm hoping that you guys can see us, hear us. Let us know if you can hear us okay. So let's do a quick audio video check.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Hello and welcome
I
to
wonder, I
not the Car
wonder,
Caravan channel, to a good one, and the Automotive Press.
yeah, I wonder if we actually are live because I'm looking at my, I wonder because I put down 3 o'clock, it hasn't started yet. Is that right?
Okay, it's giving you a time down.
Yeah, it's not letting me start. So let me change the setting to start at, this is odd because I put down 3 o'clock. Oh, no, I think it just started.
I think we are. It says
Now
live.
we're live. Okay, well, now we are live. I think we are definitely live. Okay,
Yes,
can you
sir.
guys hear us okay? Let's do one more audio check and see if you can hear us, see us. Just say
Yes,
hi.
we're here. Can
We're
you guys
physically
hear us?
here.
Just to make sure.
Yeah. Let's make sure that we are live. Uh,
Yeah.
let's just make sure we are live. I'll just double check with my assistant. Hi guys. Okay, so we're sounds good. You can see us. You can hear us. We're alive and well, and very excited to be here with you guys. So let's do another proper restart here. Big welcome to my good friend, close friend, Ahmed from Car Care Nut. Requires no introduction. You guys know him well as not just being the most authentic mechanic and service advisor, but just one of the most knowledgeable, insightful, and honest person I know. Never mind the YouTube side, but just as a person, I just have nothing but the highest respect for Ahmed, and I really enjoy his friendship. And we love to work together and discuss together. Although, would you believe that we still haven't physically met yet? And I'm sure that will change soon. I'm either have to drive
Well,
over there or meet halfway, or maybe we go to Japan together, Ahmed. That might
do it.
be even better. So, without further ado, Ahmed, do you want to just say hi to the crowd?
Yes. Well, I hope everybody's doing well. I've had an interesting day. Let's put it this way: working in an automotive shop is always interesting, but I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you so much for coming on, and let's do this. I'm ready. Are you ready, David?
I'm totally ready. I'm ready for you
Let's
anytime.
do this.
Born ready, I think, and so are you.
Yes, sir.
Now, so we got some questions from our community tab, and then I think some people also emailed us questions. But it's probably the best if you guys can just highlight your questions on the chat. If you can even do a super chat or something. You don't have to do that, but that will highlight your questions. I also noticed Kirk Rifles is in the chat. So, Kirk, thank you. I know you're not physically live with us this time, but Kirk and I often do live stream together as well. And always great to have Kirk. He's another one of my closest friends here in the YouTube world. Really, Ahmed and Kirk are two of my best friends here. So, we're just so excited to be able to talk and collaborate and hopefully answer some of your questions. And maybe some of them somewhat controversial. But you guys know we will always give you the honest, straight scoop, and especially in the live stream, I think we can do that. So
Sure.
without further ado, I know you guys will have a bunch of questions, but we have some pre thought out questions that came from a community channel and so forth. And one of the most common question is back to this whole thing about how often to change oil, how often to change other fluid, other maintenance items. And I believe Amit said he is doing a video on that soon as well. So keep an eye on that. But for now, though, I know that Karen at Amit has been talking about the 5,000 mile interval, and I've been talking about it in my channel, kind of between 3,000 to 5,000 miles, depending on the type of car you might have or how long you want to keep it for. Maybe we need to revisit that. So, Amit, what your thoughts again on the whole oil change thing, once and for all?
So I feel like I have talked a lot about this in my channel since the beginning. I feel like lately we've been having a competition of who can go longer on their oil change, and oil analysis says this and the oil manufacturers say that, but the reality is this is all talk. And then when the car has 120, 130,000 miles and it's in my shop, burning oil, scored cylinder walls, and all the damage, and I look at the service history, there was hardly an oil change every 10,000 miles. That is the reality. Because at that point, I'd like to see where where is the engineer that said 10,000 miles. I can tell you that from firsthand experience. There's no engineer, I'll tell you that, powertrain engineer. And then where is the oil analysis company that told you you're good? Where is the oil manufacturer that told you we can go 15,000 miles? That is just, folks, there's a lot of things that go on in the making of these things, many marketing, all kinds of stuff. Bottom line is, there is no automotive engineer that specializes in powertrains, engine designer, engine builder, mechanic, that will tell you that you can harm your engine by changing the oil earlier. Folks, when it comes to Toyota and Lexus, 5,000 miles, and here's another one. Actually, the video you mentioned, David, already came out from the last time we talked. That video already came out. Turbo engines, 3 to 4,000. They're turbo engines, folks. The heat is the problem. You gotta keep up the maintenance. There was a time in the past, we always say old cars were great. Well, old cars needed a lot of maintenance. People didn't complain about spending a lot of money at a 30,000 mile turbo. Today, we're not taking care of our cars, and cars are getting more complicated. You got to take care of them.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's it's like you said, the engineers, the people who design the equipment, the manufacturing engineers who deal with the manufacturing of the engine as well would all say it's better to change more often. We can get rid of those debris and machining stuff that's in the engine, but you can never change enough. I mean, like, the more you change, the better, basically. But the cost of the oil change, cost of service these days means that most people won't do it that frequently. And I guess the bottom line is that, legally speaking, as far as the warranty is concerned, if you kept up to date with what's in the owner's manual, you won't get in trouble from the automaker, because you're legally binding in terms of what you have to do based on their warranty recommendations. But if you're the type of person who wants to keep the car for a long time, even 5 to 10 years, but maybe even longer, like Amit said, 5,000 miles for regular car, 3 to 4,000 for turbo. I think that's sort of 3 to 5,000 miles. Sorry, we're talking miles right now. Is minimum, and people often say, and I would love to hear about this from you. People will say, "Hey, I did a oil analysis, and the oil was still good," but people don't misunderstand. It's not the quality of the oil that matters. We want to get rid of anything that is running inside the engine. Just flush it out with the engine oil, including those machine debris or any other debris inside. So it's not about the quality of engine oil. It really matters more often that we just flush the whole thing out, put a new engine oil and new filter, and run again. So, any comment on that one, Amit? People just say, "Hey, my engine oil is fine. It's going to last a long time."
So this is the best way I'll explain this, because I see this all the time at the shop. You go do a blood test as a human. You go to your doctor. They order a blood test. Blood test results come back. Are you going to 100% only go by the blood test results? Just read them yourself at home and decide, oh, I know better. What does the doctor know? Let's just move on with our life. That is, oil analysis have become fortunately, oil analysis is very accurate, but it has become a commercial thing. It has deviated from its original intent. It is another diagnostic tool to look into what's in the oil. What are we working with pre-surgery? Before you open an engine, you want to know, where are we at? But it has become a thing that people do to track things. Because I love it when folks come in the shop, oh, I have an elevated level of iron, whatever the case. And it's like, okay, so what would you like me to do? Because the only way to really know what's going on exactly is to tear the motor apart, measure everything, and check everything physically. Why are we going to do that for an engine that runs perfectly healthy? Just you ran it low on oil because we did a long interval oil change that started burning oil, and you had an event of debris, and now we're going to tear this engine apart based on that oil analysis. But just the bottom line is, I've seen engines that get a good oil analysis, but they have issues. We've recently had an FJ Cruiser, and maybe that reviewer is here. It's actually a viewer car. Did an oil analysis. Everything was good, but I have cylinder wall damage. So how does that work? Where was the oil analysis, folks? Oil analysis is very accurate, but it's a tool. Just like a compression test is irrelevant in 2024 because it doesn't really tell you much. Okay, we have low compression. Well, why do we have low compression? I have no idea. Nobody can tell you from a compression test. These are tools in the steps of diagnostics. You can't just rely on one of them, and definitely don't rely on one to determine the course of action for the rest of the life of your engine. That is a mistake.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think it's a tricky thing because it costs money to change more often. That's the bottom line, I guess, and also takes time. But if you really want to keep the car for a very long time, then you've got to just do that 3,000 to 5,000 mile range that we talked about. You just have to put it in. If you're close to Ahmed's shop, go to Ahmed's shop and get it done. I don't know. You probably have a long waiting list by now to come and see you, Ahmed.
I have one better. We're all car people.
Yeah.
If you love your car, just learn how to do it yourself.
Yeah. It's not difficult, right?
It gets you I think this is going to sound off, but gets you that car alone time. For car guys will understand what I mean. But this is when you get your hands on your car, not just driving it. Now, not everybody's going to do that, and that's okay. But if you're able, you should at least do it when the weather is nice. Get into your car, wrench on it, learn something basic. If you really want to, if the cost is the issue, even the oil changes are not. Trust me, oil changes will never be as expensive as an engine replacement. But if it is, I understand times are hard, inflation costs are extremely high. Do it yourself. Buy the oil from Walmart, Mobile One, get an original filter at $6. I think if we spend that every 3 to 4 months, it's everybody can budget for it and get it done. Even if you pay a shop, I mean, like oil change is the cheapest labor at the shop. It's the smallest job we do.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the cheapest insurance, right, for engine as a whole. But so just a couple of big shout out for a few people. Obviously Kirk Kreifo is online somewhere, so big shout out for Kirk, and then also Luna Maria just gave us $10. So thank you for that. I actually don't know your first name yet. You often make great comments in my channel. I know you bought a GX550. I think you moved to the US and back to Vancouver. So let me know your name so I can call you properly. So thank you for that, and thank you for your contribution. I still want to drive my Land Cruiser against your GX sometime, though. And then I think someone else also just dropped $5. Where did it go now? It went away. I'll find it shortly.
I think I see it. Opinions on the new Frontier versus the new Tacoma, pros, cons.
Okay, how come mine disappeared on that? Weird. Can you read the question on that one?
Yes, so it says opinions on the new Frontier versus the new Tacoma, pros, cons. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so we'll come back to that question. Frontier versus Tacoma, that's a good one too. But let's just finish off the questions about the rest of the fluid change, the rest of the maintenance. Ahmed, maybe quick answer on that one.
The biggest one is the transmission, folks. We've said this a lot on my channel. There's no such thing as a sealed transmission or a lifetime fluid. Lifetime equals warranty period. Let's just say that one more time out loud. Just change that trans fluid. We're good. That's what
nothing ever changes. Nothing ever lasts forever, right? So what would you suggest for transmission fluid then, Ahmed, for
Toyotas, for WS fluid, even the new TE fluid? 60,000 miles, 6 years seems to be a good interval. Fluid is not too burned. We're not kind of pushing the envelope or flying too close to the sun, if you would. I think that's a good interval from what I'm seeing. I think earlier than that, it's too early. If you're beyond that, you still have a little bit of time. It's not an exact science, but around that time would be a good idea, I think.
Perfect. And then for other fluids or other any other maintenance thing that you suggest?
So there is a lot of fluids. It depends. Brake fluid needs a test. Power steering fluid is kind of also, it's not a test, but kind of a visual inspection. Differentials, 30,000 differential and transfer case, 30,000 in the initial replacement, then 30 to 50 afterwards. Coolant every 50,000. That's another one that is heavily debated, but
Mm,
50,000 seems to be a good interval. Beyond that, you run the risk of acidic coolant leaks everywhere, and that's
it's bad,
100,000
right?
miles from the factory is too long.
Now, can you just take like the recommendation from the owner's manual and kind of cut it in half? Is that too aggressive?
Essentially, but the thing is, if you read into the owner's manual, it's actually gonna do that for the severe service, and then it's
Severe
gonna be
service anyway.
conditions for severe service. When you read
Mm,
them, it's like that's 90% of people.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
do that.
city
Yeah.
driving is severe service, right? City driving, some uphill driving,
Cold
stop and
weather.
go, cold weather. Yeah. So if you look carefully, and this applies to tire pressure too. Depends on how you drive, where you drive. All the numbers change. So keep that on our owner's manual. But I think basically if you follow the severe service intervals in the owner's manual, that's probably closer to what you would recommend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than the transmission fluid, which is not forever
Well,
changing.
actually, the transmission fluid, if you read into the severe service, it is there.
It is there. Okay, perfect. Yeah.
60,000, 6 years.
All right. So let me take this one question from Damien. So thank you for that. Thank you for the contribution. So we're kind of moving away from the fluid and stuff. We might come back to that a little bit more because that's such a hot topic.
Yes, sir.
But Frontier versus Tacoma, I know Ahmed and I will have a little bit different opinion on this one, because from a long-term maintenance perspective will be different from, let's say, a new car experience. So maybe Ahmed, do you want to go first?
So here's my. I've driven now 4 or 5 Tacomas, the new ones. I like the base model, although it's expensive. I think I like the direction they're going. Look, V6 is gone. You can't turn back time, emission standards, whatnot. So we're not. Gonna, I'm not going to get into that yet. But 4 cylinder is okay, power wise. I mean, people
Mhm.
love the previous 4 cylinder Tacoma, so now we don't like it. I understand the turbo and all that. I guess we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I've only driven a Frontier once at an event. I have been trying to get a car through Nissan. I guess Nissan is going through a lot of things, and car reviews is not my main thing. I sometimes literally at manufacturer be like, "Hey, we have this car, this date. Do you want it?" I'm like, "I don't have time." Sorry. So I have not gotten a Frontier. Actually, this is the second time I turned down a Frontier because the timing just doesn't work. Um, we're trying though. I want to get a Frontier. A lot of folks on my side of the channel have requested a Frontier review. We are working on that. I've driven one. Initial impressions, I can't really talk. Is it good or not? We haven't put it on a lift and dug into it, but it seems decent. I like it. It's old school, but can't really get into it because I haven't tested one properly.
Right. Yeah. So from my perspective, I drove the Frontier quite a few times, maybe 6 or 7 times over the last few years. I haven't driven the new facelifted version, but that one doesn't have any mechanical changes. It's more like the older Tacoma, maybe not necessarily in terms of reliability. I don't think the Nissan will ever quite be as good as Toyota, although that may change in the future. But for now, in terms of past experience anyway. But the main difference is that the current Frontier still uses the hydraulic power system, hydraulic power steering instead of the electric power steering. That's on the new Tacoma. But even if you compare to the previous generation Tacoma, when it did have hydraulic power steering, the Nissan Frontier has a really heavy steering. I love it. I like that heavy steering feel. And it's same for the Nissan Titan. It has a really heavy steering. That's kind of their character. But some people won't like it because it's too heavy, especially at low speed when you're trying to park the car. It could be annoying, but I like that truck feel. The ride is actually quite decent. It rides smoothly. I might even say a little bit better than the old Tacoma. The new Tacoma has a really good ride, so obviously the new Tacoma probably rides better. And they updated a whole bunch of stuff for 2025, which was just announced like a week ago. And so I think it's a big contender. Other than Ahmed and I both will say that the reliability is still a little bit questionable, and overall manufacturing quality is a little bit questionable. And I reviewed the exterior panels, but just in terms of driving character, it drives better than the fifth gen, the current gen, I should say, Tacoma, and drives better than even the new Tacoma as well. So those are some of my comments. Not sure if anyone else have any more questions or comments on that. Or Ahmed, you want to add anything to that at all?
I was just gonna say a Cadillac Escalade also rides better than a Sequoia,
That's true. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
but
That is very true.
I don't know much about the Frontier. I'm not a Nissan man, and although my first car was technically a Nissan, but uh,
Mhm.
I like the Frontier when I drove it. But there is a reason it has never caught on. That it's not
Mm.
a top seller. Armada is going. A lot of folks have said done. Like I considered it. I went and drove. What was it called? Not yeah, the Nissan Truck V8 Armada, I think. Uh,
Mhm.
not impressive. There's good
Mm.
old school folks, and there's
Oh, the
bad.
Nissan Armada, did you say?
Let's put it this way. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the Nissan Armada and
Not the Armada, the Titan. Sorry,
oh, the Nissan Titan. Yeah, 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 the big
Titan.
truck. Yeah,
Not the Armada, the Titan.
yeah.
Not not impressive. Let's put it this way.
Mm.
There's good old school. There's bad old school. That
Yeah,
one's bad old school.
yeah. I think you might be right. So we'll have to wait. We'll wait and drive the new Frontier before we make any further judgment. I think it's a really strong contender, just because it's naturally aspirated V6 engine on a very proven platform.
Yes.
Um, so we'll have to wait and see. So that's, I think, Just Joe asked that. So thank you for Just Joe for that contribution as well. Let me see. This couple. Let me take care of this question too, Jake. Thoughts on Integra Type S long term? I don't know, Ahmed. Have you dealt with
I, I
Integras at all?
I don't work on Honda, but I have
Mm,
reviewed an Integra Type S. They are good, except you have to be in the understanding that this is technically a performance car. So
mm,
performance cars are not expected to be as reliable as your regular Integra, for example. If I
mm.
remember correctly, and again, my memory goes barely makes it to breakfast this morning. Uh, the Type S had a 2 liter, I believe. It was a direct
Yeah,
injection only. It was turbo. I like the design of that, but direct injection only, again, comes down to how you maintain them. And
yeah,
most folks won't. And that's the problem.
yeah. That car gets driven hard, right? Even if you're not trying to drive hard, because it revs so freely to the red line, you
Beautiful
just
car.
can't help yourself. I had it 3 weeks ago. I think about is that 3 or 4 weeks ago. I had the Integra Type S for a week, and then just before that, I drove just Civic, also Type R. And I don't know if people know that Civic Type R is built in Japan, but Integra Type S is built in the US. Both identical platform, almost identical front to back, but somehow the one is built in Japan, one is built in US. But I really like the Civic Type R. I like it better than Integra Type S, even though they're similar. And I mean, these models, the previous generation, have been reasonably reliable over the last several years. So I would expect the same kind of thing to happen with the new models, especially the one that's built in Japan. So we'll see. We'll see what happens to that. But that brings up another important question, which I was going to cover a little bit later on. But since this thing came up, question was about, is there a difference in quality or long-term reliability between Japan-built cars and North American-built cars? This is something that we might need 3 hours to talk
Yes.
about, but it came up, so might as well talk about it a little bit, and then we'll see what you guys, the viewers, will say, because it's going to be a hot topic still.
Yes. So I guess let's just jump into it. We've said it. We've actually done a video together on my channel before about this. Other than see, this is more your department, David,
Mhm,
more than
mhm,
mine. But I'll report from my side. And you can have
mhm.
a bigger weight on this.
Sure.
Cars are not built like they used to.
Mm,
Not anymore. I mean, since the '90s, not even the 2000s. Uh, Back in the day, everything was made in Japan. When you say a car is made in Japan, meaning every single part is sourced from a Japanese supplier, everything was made in house, and this car was just put on a boat, shipped across the pond. That's not the case anymore
mm,
because they are building a lot of big plants all over the place, like the engine plant. So it
mm,
is not a surprise that the engine will be built somewhere else and shipped to be assembled in Japan. When the car today is said it's made in Japan, doesn't mean every single component in that car is made in Japan.
yeah,
It simply means
exactly.
the final assembly point
Mm,
is in Japan, and you see that assembly details. The paint quality is usually better. The fit and finish for the most part is better, but
mm,
the reality is this stuff does not affect the longevity of the car. It's where the engine is made, where what the design was, initial design was, how things were made. Now you can't read that sticker that comes on the car when you first buy it new, that is long lost after you buy it. That's the only way you're going to be able to know where majority of these parts came from.
Mm.
For example, you look at hybrids. If I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, the last ones that I remember, even the hybrids that are made in the US, the transmissions were still made in Japan.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that's a good point. So when you say, hey, built in Japan versus built in US or built in Canada or built in Mexico, the problem is most people might not realize like almost 80% of what goes into the car is actually built by suppliers and their suppliers. And these are global suppliers that could have plants all over the world. So whether they're located in Japan, US, or Canada, or Mexico, or anywhere else, you actually don't know what's inside your car. And the only thing you know is the final assembly point. That's the only thing they're they're supposed to be to telling you. You can look at the VIN number, and it will tell you which factory was produced, for example. So I think maybe what I guess where Ahmed and I would agree is that we can no longer say Japan built cars are all Japanese and US built cars are all American suppliers, because that's not true anymore, which means we're not always comparing apples to apples. And as we witnessed in the Tundra and Lexus LX case, even the engine that's built in Japan for Lexus LX 600 was in the recall, along with the US built engine for the Tundra, two different factories. I know for a fact that that engine for LX was built in Tahara, for example, and still had the same debris. So there's no more guarantee. I think that's what we're trying to say, where it's built. I will say, from a manufacturing engineer's perspective, there's always a little bit of difference, subtle difference. If you showed me two cars, one built in Japan, one built in US or Canada, I can usually tell which one is which without looking at the VIN number. But these are subtle differences. It may not translate to difference in long-term reliability. I would say, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Canadian, but I feel like the Canadian factories are really, really well done. The cars coming out of Honda in Alliston and cars coming out of Cambridge on Toyota plants are really well built. And in fact, I'm going to visit Cambridge plant next week, so I'll get to see the factory there as well. Yeah, so let's. Is that okay with you guys? I know it's a hot topic, but I think long-term reliability is about the same. It's more about the brands now. Toyota versus whatever, GM versus Ford. Those are maybe more of important differences within the same company, not as much. I think the biggest thing you need to keep in mind is whether the model is new or not. So if the model is brand new, first off the line, you're going to have a problem. So the Land Cruiser I just purchased, my VIN number, I think the last three digits is 950. So 950th car built, which would be like within the first 2 weeks. That's my car is really early production. And I can see there's some issues there in terms of fit and finish. There's no question that's going to get better later. So it's more that you want to avoid the first year, maybe for sure the first 6 months, but maybe the first year. If you buy a car in the second year or third year of its introduction, then regardless of where it's built, you're going to be safer. It's going to
I
be safe.
will, if you don't mind me saying,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
add
please.
one thing to that.
Mhm.
That rule, we kind of say it as a general rule, never buy the first year production of something. It depends on the car. Are we buying a full-on redesign from the ground up, like the Tundra, for example? Or are we buying let's change the color of the lipstick and ship it,
Mm,
like the Camry?
mhm,
It's the same engine, same powertrain. We're hoping we don't have issues. You're going to have a
mm,
little fit and finish stuff with the new stuff, but when you go through a radical change, like a
mm.
complete
Yeah,
reboot, redesign, yes, you actually may, in the current times, it looks like we may have to wait more than a year.
more than
But
a year. Yeah,
when it's a minor,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's when you can wait 6 to 8 months and we're good to go.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. So yeah, I did a video about a year ago explaining like a criterion, a scale rating. So whether the car is new, all new outside or inside. Is it a new tech feature? Is it a new engine or new transmission? Is it a new factory? Is it a same factory workers, different factory workers? So I have like a spreadsheet that you can kind of look at the different scale. So if it's a new factory, new model, new engine, new interior, you don't want to touch it. I think maybe 2 years right now, Ahmed, 2 to 3 years. You
I
will
mean,
probably.
Now,
Yeah,
Toyota used to be really good about their stuff. Within a year, all the little
within a
stuff.
year.
Second year, usually you'll have a few straggler issues and we're done. But the Tundra has been saying otherwise. So
Yeah, I think right now you might want to wait a couple
yes,
of
we will
years. But if
sometime.
it's a new model that just went through a facelift, and the only facelift is like some changes in the grille or the rear tail light, maybe updated infotainment system, then if that particular model was reliable before the facelift, then it will be reliable after the facelift. You don't have to wait. So those are some interesting stuff. Okay, let me take a couple more questions here, Ahmed,
Go
because
ahead.
some people were nice enough to donate a little bit more. If I can find them again. So this one. When should I do the first oil change on my Land Cruiser, first edition, and how often after that in terms of miles? So the first oil change and then how often after that? And I
I
guess,
would.
yeah, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, sorry. I would do the first oil change at 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
After that, 5,000, and then at five. Well, this engine, if I were you, this is a turbo engine. If we're talking about a LC 250 series first edition, um, I would do it every 4,000 miles after that. Do the first one at one, do the next one at four, and then every 4 after that, going forward. The earlier, the better.
But I think I agree 100% that the first one is a critical one just to get rid of all the debris and machining that happens. No matter what they do, a certain amount of machining stuff still stay in the engine.
I
It
mean,
floats in.
I will say this. I have looked at many short blocks that come from Toyota, many engine parts. Right now, we are building, I think, three engines at the same time. You will always have to breed an engine. There is no way around it. You cannot possibly get an engine to be just microscopically clean. I mean, this is not,
Mm,
again, this is not a
yeah.
microchip factory. This is an engine factory. However, that's why you have a filter and will capture it. But you don't want to go with that oil to 10,000 miles because new engines
Mm,
will always make debris. That is normal, not the Tundra engine oil thing debris. No, the normal engine debris. You always
mm.
have it.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for that, man. I mean, I've been to quite a few engine factory extensively, and there are very few engines that are actually built in the clean room. The only one that I know of is a Nissan GTR engine, because I know the head of the production guy there who's retired now. But so that was a clean room, and I went in there. I had exclusive view of the factory, and I had to I have to go through this room where they blow all the air to blow everything out of my clothing and put hairnet on, put special clothing on. So that was clean room. But you guys might be surprised that for normal engines, it's built in the open factory. I mean, it's inside a building, I should say, but it's built in a normal factory, and they're careful with controlling the dust and stuff. But it's more or less built in a normal factory environment. So that's how we end up with contaminants inside, I think.
The
Um,
best part, I just say one thing real quick.
mm, mm,
Most
mm.
people are concerned about that. Oh my God, you have to be really clean and you have to be all this, and then they go and change the oil every 15,000 miles. We just
Yeah, that's right,
more
exactly.
debris than the
Yeah,
factory ever will ever do.
it
That's yeah.
defeats the whole purpose, right? Yeah, yeah. I think we like to wax our car and make it look neat outside, but we don't want to take it to oil change. Okay, one
Basically,
more question for you, Ahmed, from Coriolis. Is that right? Do Toyota cars need engine block heater during winter? What steps can we take to keep our cars running without issues during winter time?
so as far as block heaters, if you live in area like Chicago, we see 20 degrees Fahrenheit, just below 0 centigrade. Occasionally, we'll get a really, really cold winter, but if you're living in this kind of climate, I don't think a block heater is needed. But if we're consistently in extreme temperature, like parts of Canada are like that,
Mm,
block heater is a must because you might not be able to start that engine, and
mm,
that's a problem. Um, Other than that, when it comes to winter maintenance, folks, we live in 2024. Let's winterize the car. That doesn't exist anymore. It's actually becoming a scam thing. Uh,
mm,
Modern cars are well more than capable of handling winter. The only thing with winter that you want to be careful of, um, if it's extreme weather, you want to give the car a few minutes. We're not talking we're going to warm it up for 20 minutes. Just don't.
mm,
I see this all the time. People start the car single digit outside. Fahrenheit. Start the car. The engine hasn't even had a chance to rev up. They already slammed it and drive it and went. Don't do that in winter. I mean, don't do that ever, but especially in winter. But cars have come. Everything have come a long way where you don't really need any special maintenance for winter. You just need your normal maintenance for the rest of the life of the car, not just in winter.
All right. I hope that answers your questions. So one more question. I guess this is for me, probably, Ahmed. Any more information on upcoming Celica? Sorry, we say Celica in Canada. You guys say Celica in the US. So there's just like a Mazda. We say Mazda in Canada, and you guys say Mazda in US. So it's a tricky thing. But anyway, so for those people who may not have kept up to date with my kind of predictions, the shocking amount of new models are coming back from Japan using the old nameplate. So as far as we know, based on some speculations from Japan and other sources, we believe the Celica is coming back, the MR2 is coming back, the FJ Cruiser is coming back in the form of a mini FJ that's yet to be determined to what the name might be. So yeah, and of course we know that the Prelude is coming back as well as from Honda. So there's, for some reason, companies are going back again with the nostalgic names. Mazda is supposed to be bringing back the RX-7, not the RX-8, but RX-7, supposedly in around 2027. So between 2027 and 2029, all these cars are supposed to come out. Celica, MR2, FJ, RX-7, and probably missing a few more I just can't think of right now, but there's a bunch of other Prelude and a few other names that I just can't think of right now that are all supposedly coming back to being a back to basic vehicle, except for I heard that the MR2 might be very expensive. And they're supposed to be coming back as ICE or internal combustion engine vehicles and not as an EV. Initially, we thought everything would be EV, but with all these changes happening where people are not buying EV like they used to, looks like they're switching to back to ICE models. So it looks like there will be hybrids and ICE sports cars well into late 2020s, maybe into 2030. So that's really exciting. I think Ahmed has a bunch of other projects coming up that I don't know if you thought. Did you talk about that? Your next project yet? Is that still secret?
Not yet.
That's still secret? Okay. So
Still
keep an eye
secret.
on his channel because he's got an interesting project along the lines of some of those names I mentioned.
Well,
So,
I got to say one thing about the Celica and the MR2.
Yeah.
Who's going to make these for Toyota?
oh, so yeah.
Steve?
The speculation is that you'll be pure Toyota models.
Please do that. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I feel like now as a Toyota technician, I work on Toyotas, I work on BMWs, I work on Mazdas, I work on Subarus. Who else?
Yes.
Please.
Yeah.
That's just
Looks like they're supposed to be pure Toyota cars, except for actually the GR86 is supposed to be changing also in about 2 years.
I just released a video today. It's strange things that Toyota has done, and today I regretted not mentioning this. Why is there an FRS and a GR86? Why was that not just called a Celica? I don't know.
It is. Well, you know the reason why is because the AE86, which is the GR86 now, was a huge deal in Japan, much more than Celica or Supra. That was the big name. So I think globally, because they knew they might sell more in Asia, they decided to use a name that was more popular in Asia, in Japan, which is the 86 name. So that I think that's the reason why. They should have called it Celica. I agree.
Well, the FRS, Scion FRS, definitely did not resonate with.
No, that's right. Yeah. Well, the whole Subaru Toyota joint venture is a bit odd because this GR86 is really just basically re-engineered Subaru and built in a Subaru factory, engineered by Subaru people as well. But most people also might not realize Subaru is 20% now, 20% owned by Toyota. So it's not a Toyota company, but it's getting closer, right? Toyota also owns 5% of Mazda. So there is more and more of those collaborations taking place. So let me take a couple more questions. I think we took these ones. Oh, here. Have you let me just put this up on the screen. Let me see. Sorry, we'll get to all the other questions if we can as well, guys. We're doing the best we can. But I do want to give shout out to some of the people who did give some funding here. So This is just Maria's just giving us funding, contributing. So thank you for that. I don't think you had a question. And then there was one more person who gave some money, and here's the question here. Okay, one more oil question for you, Ahmed.
Yes,
Is today's oil recommendations 0W20 or 0W8 too thin for hotter areas like Texas? Would you use a heavier oil like 5W30?
see, this is one of these questions that would require some research. It's going to depend on the kind of engine you have. You always, when it comes to engines, go back to the original year of design of the engine. See, this is where just when they do stuff like this, where they mid-year cycle of the engine, nothing changed, and all of a sudden they just say, oh, this engine went from 016 to 0W8. I would question that, because when the A25A came out, it was always a 016 engine. The original design was a 0W16 engine. But when they all of a sudden take the A25 and say, oh, we're going to put 08, is it going to be fine? Sure. You could take your 1999 Camry, put 0W8 in it. It'll run for how long? We'll find out. But you can always go back to the original year this engine came out. Whatever oil was approved for it then is the oil I would use comfortably. I use 0W16 in my Camry for the time that I've had it. Now, hotter areas, see, this is you kind of put something that I wouldn't do. Don't go with these modern engines. Don't start going from 020 to 530. That's a pretty big jump, folks. It's a huge difference. Because these engines have a electronically controlled oil pump, and the pressures will be through the roof. You're constantly relieving pressure through the pressure relief. That's actually not good for these engines. So if you're going to make an increment, make a small change. If you're really in a hot area, you're using 0W8, go to 16. Don't go to 20 and 520 and 530. Make a small change. And really, if you're worried about long term, go with the oil that this engine came out with originally, because whatever changed later, they changed nothing. You know that.
So that I guess in summary, go back to the original recommended oil that's in the owner's manual of that
the engine came out.
When the engine came out, and stick with that basically.
So the 2AR FE, the recommended oil was actually 520 at some point. Then they switched to 020. But if you go back to 520, you're actually okay. Same thing with the 2GR. 2GR FE really doesn't like 020 in really hot weather. But 530, that's what they were initially designed for. 2GR FKS, however, the updated version, that isn't okay for 020. I hope that makes sense. Go back to the year the engine actually came out in.
Yeah, good suggestion as always here. Okay, one more specific question for you, Ahmed. Have either of you dealt with a Lexus SC430 steering wheel shimmy at 60 miles per hour? Seems like a common issue. For those people who might not be aware, I did buy a 2004 Lexus SC430 with 30,000 miles, 35,000 miles on it. It's like a brand new car. I absolutely love it. Maybe I enjoy even more than the Lexus LC 500 to some degree, because it's such a nostalgic car for me. But I haven't had this problem. Is this something common?
So there's a lot of things. There's not one thing that is common. There's multiple things I could tell you that will do that. First, you got to go through a diagnostic step. You got to get out wheels, balance, tire issue. That's the first thing I would get out. The second thing with the SC430 is the suspension design is very, how should I say it, ancient. So the front control arms are actually notorious to have play, and they cause all kinds of vibration. Tie rods being loose, even slightly, will cause all kinds of vibrations. The other thing that I'm starting to see a little bit of now, might not be the case here, steering column play. We've actually had a few cases where it did cause vibration, because you basically have movement in the steering column, side to side. But that you should be able to feel a little bit of play in the steering. If steering doesn't feel right, but the problem is, if you bought that car like that and you haven't driven another one, most people assume, well, that's how it is. Well, sometimes it's not. That's a step, but there's not one thing that would cause it.
I see. Okay, good suggestion there. So I hope that was okay with you. I say, oh, so thank you for that. I enjoy my SC430. I hope you like yours.
Car.
And it's a beautiful car. But I thought my car was almost perfect, but I did end up replacing both speakers in the front door. That's enormous cost to put the original Lexus speakers. And then my power door lock actuator just went last week, so I got that fixed. So in an old car, you got to put time and money
20-year-old
in,
car.
right?
That's
Yeah,
not a
that's
lot of convertible 20-year-old cars that are still driving. That's way.
yeah. So Ahmed has his Lexus LS, although that one has way more mileage than mine, but still his pet project, and mine was a Lexus SC430 pet project. So we both like old Lexus. Just something about those older Lexus with a very particular feel, the steering feel, the ride suspension. It's just like they feel like a tank. They're solid, and I'm going to just be honest to say the new cars don't feel like that anymore. There's not just because we're moving from hydraulic power steering to electric power steering, but everything feels light and simple and straightforward, but it doesn't have that kind of real solid feel that we used to have, right, Ahmed?
No,
Would you agree with
nothing
that?
feels like that anymore because they don't overbuild cars anymore. I mean, they're barely building them again. They don't overbuild them. Everything in the SC and the LS in that era was purposely overbuilt,
Over
unnecessarily so.
engineered.
Well,
Yeah,
that's why they feel
overbuilt.
like
Okay, we'll take one more question, and then we got some other common themes we want to cover as well.
that.
Lucas, love motors content. Thank you so much. I have a 18 Lexus LC 500. Good for you. I change oil every 6 months and drive 5,000 miles a year. Any advice on maintaining this beauty? Anything else that Lucas can do
So
other than?
in this case, it looks like you're not putting a lot of miles. I would do things by time. Everything switches by time, so you're going.
Mm,
You should have already replaced your coolant in 5 years. Uh, I think if rear differential on the LC, I would change the fluid. I don't know what your driving is,
mm,
but I would change it at this point. I'm doing
mm,
the math here. You should have more than 30,000 at this point. Uh, Transmission on the LC 500, depending how much miles you have, I think you are in the window of pretty soon getting it replaced. But remember, do things by time, not everything like differential. If you're not at 30,000, don't. It's going to happen with time. But
mm.
transmission, brake fluid needs to be tested. If I'm not mistaken, every 2 years, and the LC is the manual way. But um, you can test it. Depends how you drive. If you're driving it spiritedly, brake fluid is going to be more common. But you go things by time. That's what I would say.
Okay. So again, follow the kind of severe driving
Absolutely.
frequency or rating on the manual, not
Absolutely.
the regular intervals, right?
I would.
Yeah. Lovely car. I think some of you guys know I bought a 24 Lexus LC 500 in January. It's my dream car. I love the car, although I have not driven it very much, to be honest. But I hope to keep that forever, and maybe that'll become a collectible at some point. That's the car I should drive to go see Ahmed in Chicago area.
I'm over. Love to see.
I feel like taking my SC430 because I want you to take a look at it and make sure everything is okay, but it
Yes.
might not be as comfortable as driving a LC500.
Yes.
All right, a couple donations here from Kent Y. No question, just $5. So thank you for that. And there was another one here. Andre, no question, but just gave us $20. So thank you for that as well. We really appreciate you guys contributing. And let me see if I missed anyone else with that. So let me go back to, I know there's lots of questions, you guys, but let me just come back to a couple questions that was kind of burning questions from you guys in the community channel. Let me try to hide these questions. Okay. And that was all the recalls that are happening lately from Toyota, everything from the Tundra recall, which include the Lexus LX engine recall, the Grand Highlander, Lexus TX airbag recall, and stop sale. That's just the two of the more of the prominent ones. There's many other recalls, not just from Toyota, but many other manufacturing companies as well. So I guess the question people are asking, are things getting worse? Why are we getting so much more recalls? Is it going to get worse? Or is Toyota and other companies cutting corners? And is that why this is happening? Ahmed, do you want to start with that one? It's a heavily loaded question.
Yes.
Might
Well,
take a while to answer that, but
the best part is I'd like to ask people one thing. Is it really getting worse, or you have
Mm,
not been paying attention in the past? Folks,
mm,
the period between 2007 and 2012 was the recall time. I mean, it was unbelievable. You'll get one of the greatest cars in the planet. It'll have 10 recalls on it.
mm,
Recalls are hardly an indication of if the car is good or not. It is just an indication of, first, in my opinion, a manufacturer that's willing to say, you know what, uh, we messed up. Let's fix it, make it right, and move on. That's the first thing that I think of when I think of recalls, because most recalls, and I like how social media these days, anybody will take any document from the internet and make a video about it and run without really understanding what's what or understanding anything. I mean, I've read an article, Toyota recalls, or another manufacturer as well, same thing, recalls this many 100,000 cars for a weight sticker. I mean, are you
mm,
serious? That is a compliance recall. That is a
mm.
ridiculous reason. Basically, there is a weight sticker on the door that may have been incorrect, so we're going to just put a
Yeah,
sticker and send you on your way.
yeah.
We are really saving lives there. Then
Mm,
there are the serious recalls, airbag stuff. Then there was the pedal stuff back in the day. Then there was doors catching on fire from the switch, window switch. I mean, there's a lot of recalls that I can think of. There are serious recalls.
mm,
I guess there's always two sides to every story. Do we look at it as, oh, they're messing up left and right? Do they have all these recalls? Or do we say, hey, at least they're acknowledging there's a problem, taking care of it? These are the two sides, but I don't think right now is the height of the recalls. Folks, there was
mm,
times where there was millions of cars recalled for stuff, and you just can't, unless you have the whole picture. I don't think right now is really the height of the recall. I think the biggest thing is the Tundra one because of the
mm,
logistics of it, but it's not the biggest recall that has been out from Toyota Land, at least that I
mm.
know of, and other manufacturers the same way.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So that's just to add to Ahmed's comment there. Most people might not realize that recalls are usually safety related. So if anything that's safety related, it has to be recalled. It's not necessarily performance oriented or other issues. And also, you have to keep in mind that the recalls are, for most part, is voluntary recalls, which means the government hasn't forced them to do the recall yet. They're encouraged to do the recall so they can get take these things into account and get it over and done with before it gets worse. But there are manufacturers out there that do not recall when they should have, and eventually government steps in, and NHTSA, that's the government safety board, will say you have to recall, and then now it's a government mandated recall that's much more serious. So you kind of have to remember all the recalls we're seeing so far, as far as Toyota is concerned, have been the mandatory recalls, and some are more serious than others. And I will agree with Ahmed that I don't know if it's getting worse, but there are more safety equipment in the car. You know, the Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 or Lexus Sense, what is it? Lexus Safety Plus 3.0, whatever the name might be. So there's more likely things go wrong. Like if there's something a little bit wrong with the backup camera, it's an automatic recall. So there's some kind of a calibration error with the backup camera, then it's always recalls. I received like 7 recalls in the last 2 years, all to do with backup camera problems, for example. It's not dangerous and it's not a manufacturing defect, just kind of calibration error. So those recalls happen a lot with Toyota, but the question, I think the most important thing is how quickly are they fixing these things, and are they taking care of the recalls? That's probably more of an important determination than whether than the number of recalls, right? So Ahmed, any comment on that? I still believe that Toyota, generally speaking, are more thorough and more careful about coming up with a solution, the right solution. And when the right solutions come, they're very efficient and very process oriented to get them fixed by the dealership, and it's done correctly. So I still think that that's the most important thing. What do you think, Ahmed?
I did, yeah, no. So I just have to be honest here. This is just my style. I'm a mechanic. I'm not. I don't have a red tape. Um, Recalls are only as good as the execution. That's my experience. I don't know how they do their internal process. By the way, I worked for Toyota, for a dealership, not Toyota themselves. They never really give you the real info behind the scenes because they don't have to. They just give you the fault, give you the solution. Now, if the technician does not follow procedure, dealerships don't make the equipment that need to be available, or somewhere in between, or you do perform a recall on a car and the car goes to another shop and they basically undo the recall. Well, how is that? How is that coming back to Toyota? And I can give you a prime example of that. 2008 Highlander. I remember this like it was yesterday. Uh, the window switch recall. I don't even remember the name of the recall. I'm not going to mention it here. So we did the recall, car left, and then I guess the switch at some point something happened to it, and they replaced it from a junkyard one. Well, the switch they got from the junkyard was from a car that didn't have the recall applied to it. That was actually a big thing. Well, that's the problem with recalls sometimes. And you basically, okay, let's say the Tundras. I'll give you an example on the new stuff. They're going to say, and this is all predictions, they haven't confirmed it 100%. Say they put a long block in a Tundra today. You drove this car, everything is great. They put a clean engine, doesn't have debris, whatever the case. You drove this car 150,000 miles and then took it to a small mom and pop shop in the middle of nowhere that has never even heard what a recall means. Engine, you ran over a rock, engine ran out of oil, it blew everything. Okay, let's get you a used engine. And they happen to pick an engine from a 22, put it in this car that is affected by the recall. Because Toyota has no control over used parts and crashed cars and whatever. Take an engine out of 22, put it in your car, and you have no idea, they have no idea. Well, how is that going to work? That's the question mark part of recall. That's the problem. I have seen so many recalls get redone multiple times, like recall the recall, because people were not following procedures, things were not done. I can give you one example. The rear arms on the RAV4, I mean, they recalled that multiple times because people were simply not following procedure, either from the dealership level or aftermarket repair shops, or sometimes the owners themselves. I mean, there are some recalls that are, of course, they're not going to be a recall if they're not a safety concern. But some of them, I actually feel like this is pushing the envelope here. One of those cases is the battery for the RAV4, the 13 to 18 RAV4s. So they made a recall to inspect the size of the battery in the car. If it's the incorrect size, the recall is to replace the battery and put a warning sticker. I mean, somebody installed the incorrect size battery. Why are we recalling the car? Because somebody purposefully put the wrong size. But that's not how the politics work of recalls and all that. They have to recall the car. So not all recalls are the same. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I know. I guess we can keep on going on and on about recalls because it gets attention, and Ahmed, and especially Ahmed, and I am kind of in the thick of it just because we hear so much from the viewers, the owners, and people get really frustrated and they're even worried about their future. Like if you have a Tundra and you're in a recall but you don't have any symptoms, then promise, what should you do? That's one of the questions people ask me. So those kind of stuff always come up. My view is that even if you have a Tundra that has no symptoms and you are under recall, you need to get it changed. I just wouldn't change it right away. I would just wait a little bit and let the dealership, whoever your dealership might be, let them run the first couple of hundred or couple of thousand maybe even, and then and you can come later when they got all the process figured out and they know how to change the entire engine properly, then go and get your engine replaced. But you should
definitely. You want to dive into the Tundra recall talk?
Oh yeah, I guess we have to, right?
So
yeah, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
We were just talking about recalls. Now that is a serious recall, and that I think is an actual big deal recall, the kind of high profile recall. Now here's the curve at a dealership, and I'll tell you this from just working at a dealership and firsthand experience. When recalls come out, there's kind of a graph, I'll say it. The very first cars that get done at a dealership, if they end up with the right person working at a dealership, they will be done the most correct because they are following procedure. This is a new process. We're just figuring out how to do this and figuring out the logistics of it. They usually will not give the recall at a dealership that just came out and it's a brand new recall to a green guy. They will usually give it to
Mhm.
somebody that's more experienced just to kind of get things started. That is if you catch it at that point, you're actually good taking it to the dealership at that point. The problem is as time passes and as this recall starts overwhelming the dealership, and that one is going to overwhelm
Mhm.
dealerships. I already feel bad for them. As things start overwhelming, they have no choice but to hand this recall to anybody at the dealership that has the name certified. That's the problem. That's when you're overwhelmed and you're rushing because now technicians have a mode called cruise control, which is very dangerous. When you've done the
Mhm.
same engine 1,000 times, you kind of tend to not think about it. It becomes like second nature, and that's dangerous. That's how mistakes are made. So it's tricky. Do you take it at the beginning when they don't know what how they're going to do this? You got to find the perfect time. But I guess in the end,
Mhm.
all recalls also are under a certain type of warranty. So then the better question is, do you take it to get it in right away if your engine runs fine or not? I think that's a very valid question.
Mhm.
It's going to depend on how you use your truck. Do you frequently travel? Do you frequently go very far away in remote areas? I think in that case, uh, running great or not, just take it, get it done, be over with it.
Yeah.
If you're not, then you can wait, and that's
Mhm.
yeah,
So I guess you want to wait a little bit so you're not the first guinea pig, but you also don't want to wait too long when they feel a little bit tired of doing this and becomes automatic cruise control replacement. So I don't know, somewhere in between there's a sweet spot, I guess, Ahmed.
yeah.
So
It's tough, but
it's hard to
basically,
figure that out. But
you want to take it to a good dealership, and this recall is going to kill the the Toyota service departments. There's no other way to say
yeah,
it. Excuse my use of language. Um, this is going to make the few, not few, there's a lot of actually really good technicians remaining in this industry, but it's going to make them second think their early retirement or change of career because this is a lot. 102,000
yeah, it's a
engines,
lot.
that's a
It's
lot.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure people realize what kind of agony Toyota would have gone through to get to this decision because, and Ahmed was talking about this earlier, and would have been very easy for them to say, let's assess it and only replace or fix the engine that seems to have these problems, like as symptoms. But to decide to replace all 100,000 engines with a brand new engine, no questions asked, that's unheard of, really, honest
Yes.
as
And a
it's,
recall,
it's
not
all
an
recalled.
not like a campaign where hey, we're going to extend the warranty for 150,000 miles or
Mm,
10 years, whatever. If you have an issue, no, this is a recall. This is
yeah,
one, two, three. Every car that is affected gets an engine. That's a bold move.
yeah.
I was not
That's a
expecting
that's a that's a bold
that.
move.
Hey,
Yeah.
power to the people that own these cars that are affected. I might end up being one of them one day. I hope not, but hey, I am.
Mm.
So power to the people. That's why we do video sometimes and we talk about controversial subjects because this is the beautiful age of social media. We can actually make
Mm.
an impact and change things to benefit the people. Companies will be okay. They'll recover.
Yeah.
We'll keep buying their products and they'll be fine.
Exactly. Yeah. I think we get I mean, we all love cars, so we get attached to our own cars, but it's a little bit like anything else in life. Work, life, friends, families. There's always ups and downs of things, and you kind of have to ride along with it. And if it's getting taken care of, it's getting fixed, and it's repaired, it's getting improved, then I just move on. So I just bought a new Land Cruiser. I think you guys know that. I just got one 2 weeks ago. And believe it or not, it has 8 big door dings or dents on the roof, like very noticeable door, not small, big, like almost like someone threw a golf ball at it. There's 7 or 8 of them, which is shocking. And so most people kind of very upset for me. They're upset for me that I would have purchased it, and there's a problem there. But I determined that it's not a manufacturing defect. There's no way you can get that kind of dents from a factory. I figured it's probably not transportation defect because that's also a bit odd. It could be vandalism, that's possible. But it's likely because the first edition Land Cruisers, they have to remove the normal roof rack and they have to replace it with this really heavy full roof rack that's really heavy, made from solid metal. And then that's done at the port, not done at the factory. It's being done at every port where the Land Cruisers are being landed. No pun intended there. So I think when they took the old roof rack out and put the old one, a new one in, which is heavy, they might have leaned against it, or leaned the tool against it, and I believe that's how the dents probably have taken place. But I got a really good, one of those dentless removal guys. Chad is the guy we use here in Vancouver area, and our dealership brought him in, and he fixed all seven or eight of them, and it's almost perfect. I can't even tell there was something going on, and therefore there's no damage to the paint, so therefore it's okay. It's kind of interesting experience that I had to go through this, and I'm not upset the dealership or anyone. This happened, get it fixed, and we move on.
Yep.
And sometimes I think that's the kind of attitude we have to all these recalls. Instead of getting emotionally attached, you have to decide if you like the truck or the car you own, and after it's being fixed, you're happy with it, then just move on. This is just part of life. It's going to always happen. If you're not happy with the truck, or you're really upset about this, then sell it and buy something different. And just don't get too emotionally attached, even though we love cars, because they are mechanical objects after all, and something goes wrong, and something will always go wrong, and we just kind of have to go along with the ride. That's my opinion, right, Ahmed? And you're in the business of fixing some things. So
I'm just noticing a lot of negativity about everything without really a negativity without a cause. I guess I'm not defending Toyota. I think they did not do things well with, or at least not. Well, you can't really say that anymore. But they didn't do things quick enough with the Tundra engine, and there's a lot of other quality issues with the Tundra. But now they've acknowledged that we have a problem and we're going to take care of it. And I'm glad that they're doing it the way they are for the people that own the trucks. But the negativity over everything, it's almost, as a technician, I look at it, it's like there's some channels that are just, I feel like their main motto is just negativity of all manufacturers. And the thing is, I almost look at that as a technician. It's like, where were you 10 years ago? Because every new model that has come out has been worse. Some models have been a lot worse. The 07 Tundra was like that. It was a disaster. I mean, the thing was glued together with cheap glue. That's how it felt like compared to the previous one. But that's how every new model starts. Same thing with the 16 Tacoma. I remember it like it was yesterday. I still have nightmares about it every time I see a 16, 17 Tacoma comes in the shop. But that's how every new model starts, folks. I mean, the Tacoma, they haven't even started selling it at full force. We already have all the negativity in the planet. Yes, they're expensive. That is probably the only thing I'll say that is legit, a little gimmicky on the higher trims. But the negativity is a lot. It's not helping owners. And I see this all the time. You know what? I've been a loyal Toyota buyer. I'm never buying a Toyota again. I disagree with that statement. Don't be a loyal nothing. Be loyal to yourself and your love. You like a car, buy it. Doesn't turn out to be good, send it out the door, get another one. If that's not possible financially, then research more. Because you know what? We say, we always say, the American manufacturers, don't make long-lasting cars, but every once in a while they do. And then Toyota, and Honda, and Nissan was, never is the case anymore. Toyota and Honda, they make reliable cars, but every once in a while they make one that is horrendous. And that's, don't be loyal to a brand. Be loyal to yourself and your research and your hard-earned money by putting it somewhere where you feel comfortable. And in the end, you could be wrong. I've owned Mercedes-Benz before. They're the most beautiful bankrupting cars there is, but I enjoy them. You gotta try everything. Toyota is not the only company out there that makes good cars, but they have built a reputation over that. And if anybody told you that they never make mistakes, they lie to you flat out. If they don't make mistakes and their cars are perfect, I wouldn't have a shop today.
That's true.
Same thing with the V8.
Yeah. So, and I think people again put Toyota on a pedestal, and they say they make perfect cars, but they don't. But they're better at it than maybe most other companies. But like, for example, a very interesting thing is that I bought a 24 Land Cruiser with it has a mine's a 950th I think model, so very early production, built in March of this year. And then I have this week I have another Land Cruiser almost identical, a premium edition one that was built in with a VIN code of about 3,000. So it was built in April, a month later. And you know what? There's difference already. Same car built, but both built in Hamura plant, which is Hino plant, not Tahara plant. It's built in two different factories, and the engine calibration is different. Ahmed, yeah, I'm driving. They both got about the same mileage, and the one that's built a month later, the engine calibration is almost perfect. You step on the gas just slightly, and just the turbo just kicks in, just the smooth delivery. And mine is a little bit more abrupt, and it's might be partly to do with adaptive transmission that has to still figure things out. But no, I think they actually calibrate it a little bit different, the engine management system maybe. And the newer models, 1 month later, it drives a little bit differently, and the steering feels a little bit different too. So no cars are exactly identical, even if they're built on the same line, especially if they're not built at the same time. And then of course people, and I sometimes talk about this quite a bit too, that the Hara built cars may be the best in the world. That probably is true, but I was able to find that the Hara built Land Cruiser also right beside mine in the shop, and I compared exterior, and actually surprisingly, the Hamura built Land Cruiser had a better paint quality and slightly better gaps. And I attribute that to the fact that Tahara is a very high volume factory. They're busy building 9 different models, and maybe they don't pay as much attention as the smaller Hamura plant, which has a lot more at stake if they don't do a proper job, because they're not 100% Toyota factory. It's a subsidiary factory, and so they might be trying harder to get it right. And so I noticed the paint job is a little bit thicker, a little bit better on the Hamura built Hamura built Land Cruiser. So cars are, even though mechanical object, there's more than 100,000 parts in it, and as you build them over time, they're a little bit like a living thing. They change, they evolve, they move. Calibration changes. They make lots of what we call running change in factory and engineering, which is not your facelift, not the facelift changes, but in the first couple of years of a production, they make all these little engineering changes that are documented and implemented in the factory, but never shown anywhere else. And they'll make hundreds of these changes throughout the year, which is part of the continuous improvement. And that's why a car you might buy in the beginning of the year and a car you might buy at the end of the year might feel different and look a little bit different. I'm sure Ahmed experiences that, because early production, late production all have different quality control. Yeah, so those are things. Cars are a living thing. They're moving, evolving, changing, and you go along with it. And you decide what's the car you like the best. You buy it. You don't like it, sell it, and move on. I think
Now,
that's
this is something that I'll say about Toyota. Their quality. People say their quality have slipped. It's over. The quality of the world have slipped. Look at that. Look at the price of food and everything. And that's a terrible thing to happen in 24 when. I say this is my very mechanic-like gauge. You go to Costco, you buy a few things for the week. It used to be 100, 150 bucks, and it's like, come on, man, it's 150 bucks in groceries, really? In just a quick visit to Costco? Now that 150 bucks became $400, and just I don't see the salaries becoming there. That's the problem. But beyond that, the whole quality of the world is dropping, folks, in case you haven't noticed. Unfortunately, that's just the reality where we live in. But I like two things that I see with Toyota that are still the same. First, they still have that philosophy of conservativeness. They're not You notice they are just determined. We are going to put our Hybrid Max drivetrain, whether it bankrupts us, into our trucks. They are determined. They are not backing off a bit. Even if things didn't go well with the Tundra, they are not backing off. And that's the biggest thing. The second thing is, I love their stubbornness of not changing certain things that they deem unnecessary. Like the GX, the previous generation GX, that 460. I mean, 2010 all the way to 23, you guys could not fix the lean problem. Mine had a lean problem in 23. They didn't fix it because they didn't deem it as a big problem. The glove box gap in the Tundra, They would not fix it. It's a horrible gap. It looks horrible. They now year number 2, they don't fix it because they don't see it as a big problem. So that trait is actually, people will see it as a bad thing. That's actually a good trait in Toyota because that's what that's how they keep the same design and just keep improving it slowly behind the scenes where nobody's looking. And that's there's hope. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, there's so much stuff going on that I think people can get a little bit confused and just a little bit, flustered with all the things that are happening in the world, and not just the recalls, but like you said, pricing going up, and at least the supplies are getting better now. You can get what you want to buy,
Yes.
except for the really most popular cars. But I'm getting very philosophical here, but that's why the automotive industry is fascinating for us, from service mechanic perspective for Ahmed, from engineering manufacturing perspective for me. It's never ending. It never stops. It's always getting better, sometimes getting worse. But in general, the whole industry moves forward. It keeps evolving, and sometimes they make great cars, and sometimes they don't make great cars. But those stories are interesting to me. I even love. And I'm sure Ahmed likes that too. Sometimes my friends have like a 1976 Chevy Caprice or some old Honda Civic, and I would love to drive it because we just love cars for what they are. And that's just me. My attitude is different toward cars. I'm not afraid of defects. I'm not afraid of problems. I don't mind these things happening. They're just part of life. And people know I change my car often because I like to experience different cars. So, I think we're getting lots of negative comments. I think Ahmed, myself, all the other YouTubers are experiencing and seeing a lot more negative comments about Toyota and recalls. And I can understand people's frustration, but I think it's time to move on, right? What do you think, Ahmed?
As long as I'm willing to move on as long as things going the consumer way. Because the
That's true.
Tundra, the whole mess with the Tundra engine, whatever. I'm glad we are going in the right direction. At first I was really happy that they announced the recall. Hey, that we have a problem.
Mhm.
Let's take care of it. And then to my surprise, a surprise to many, we're going to replace every single engine, no questions asked.
Yeah.
At least that's what the text is suggesting. So that's a move in the right direction. As long as the people that are hurting out there, they had to pay, their trips interrupted. People use these trucks as an actual truck to live to make a living. Basically, they're not nervous about this thing breaking down. They're gonna get folks taken care of. That is more important than the whole first model year problems of new trucks. The only problem is things are getting expensive, and
Mm.
that's the problem. I feel like I'm not gonna go negativity over little stuff of new models because folks, that's been going on for as far as I have worked on cars. But I think what we need to kind of together, all of us, I think we need to, although it's not also the manufacturer fault, I think we need to push on the prices of cars. Things are
Mm.
getting out of control a
Yeah, it is
lot.
out of control.
That's the problem. I know it's inflation and that's bigger than the automotive industry, but if we're going to push on something, instead of pushing on negativity of a single model, let's push on the prices of everything.
Mm.
Because that is the biggest thing.
I agree. Like, these are Canadian prices, but Tacoma TRD Pro in Canada is $83,000 Canadian. That's how much we paid for our Lexus GX 460 a year and a half ago. It just the money doesn't make sense anymore, and it would be okay if somehow these cars have a really good resale value and you can recover it, but those days are gone as well.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, the only good news is that as cars get simpler through electrification, even though I don't like cars that much, price should come down. At least the EV cars should come down in prices because of the technology improvement, and hopefully things will settle down. I think people forget that a lot of cars that we're seeing today in 2024, 2023 were designed or built or engineered back during the COVID time. So, this may not be a good excuse, but I just feel like so much of the problems that we have, including some of the wrong decisions that car companies made, might have started during the 2019, 2020 timeframe when companies were in just chaotic situation. We couldn't communicate properly with each other. There was no actual face-to-face meetings, and I just feel like poor decisions were made back in those days that are being reflected right now. And now
Very
that
well.
we're back in sort of a more of a normal life as far as corporate world is concerned, hopefully in a couple of years the cars are better because we have more face-to-face time. You can't replace 6 engineers in the same room talking about something to the same 6 engineers trying to discuss a problem in a Zoom call or Microsoft Team call. It's just not effective, no matter how good the technology is,
I,
right?
I will I will say this. We talked with the one of the designers. I don't remember what his exact title was, but he was one of the designers of the new Tacoma, the TRD Pro. So he was telling me about the seat. I loved the idea initially until I saw it. I'm like, yeah, this is a total gimmick because it doesn't work as good as it is promised, and it takes
Mm,
all your entire back seat. But he was basically telling me they were designing that during the COVID times, and they were doing backyard engineering because they
yeah,
had no other choice. And that's I totally see that. I mean, if we were designing a high profile car that costs this much in our backyards, it's a great thing if we were kind of DIYing something as a side project, but not for a giant corporation. People are going to pay the price for this truck.
yeah, exactly.
And when
Yeah.
I see the final product, it does look like, yeah. So
The what is it? Isometric seat? Is that the right term?
yeah,
Isometric, I think,
I
something like that.
okay.
Sorry.
I'm just going to come out and say it. I just like that seat so much. I even forgot its name. Uh, yeah, that thing was horrible.
Isodynamic seat. Sorry, a little bit off.
Isodynamic.
Isodynamic.
Yes,
Yeah.
that
It
not
looks cool, but it's just complete
option is
gimmick.
great.
It's
There's a
complete
lot of
gimmick.
gimmicky options out there, but they're options.
Yeah, that
And
one is.
90% of people have the option to say, no, I don't want that gimmick, but it was
Yeah,
stuck.
exactly. Yeah, that one and the center JBL speakers are a little bit
Yes.
questionable decisions,
I
but
mean, I just can see you park that thing in the bad part of town. Somebody's gonna break the glass just to steal that speaker. Isn't
yeah,
that gonna happen sometime soon? I hope not. But
exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think I still have the 23 Lexus GX, the old timer, right? That was like simple, beautiful engine. I really like it, and even the Land Cruiser is really nice. I feel like I'm driving a very complex car. The way engine kicks in, the hybrid system, the turbo kicking in. It's just the whole car doesn't quite feel as natural and as organic as just good old fashioned V8 or V6 car naturally aspirated. So I gotta admit I missed the time. I missed those kind of vehicles, and we're going to lose all of them. Eventually, everything's going to be EV or turbocharged or hybrid or all of the above. So if you have a chance to buy a 2024 Forerunner right now, for example, I still recommend it. I still think that's the car you buy, that you can keep for the rest of your life because it probably won't break down, right? That's one of our top
uh,
10 cars that I met and I love.
I don't think there's no car that never breaks down.
Well,
But
that's true, of course.
it has a very good chance of
Mhm.
surviving a very long time with a minimal amount of issues, real issues. Now, as far as cars feeling kind of unnatural and turbo and hybrid and all of that, uh, I think I won't speak for you, David, because you always look great on camera. But
No, no,
I think
no.
I may be getting a little old. I think that's the part of it because I remember distinctly when cars were switching from um, carburetors to fuel
Mm,
injection. Everybody said the same thing, but then
mm,
we turned out to be wrong. Fuel injection was the way to go. And then if
mm,
we move away to the time where we switch from hydraulic power steering to electric power steering, yes, the field did change. Well, car people disliked it, but you know what? 90% of people out there, they're not car people. They don't care.
yeah, yeah.
Electric power steering is a lot more reliable than hydraulic with no leaks, no problems, and
Mm,
no fortunes to spend later on.
mm,
So I feel like we're feeling that we're doing the same thing. The only problem is cars have gotten so expensive that there isn't much room for, this is not very well made. Okay, we'll
mm.
look past it. No, I mean, we're paying a small fortune for these cars. They at least got to feel good, and they don't. That's the problem. That's everybody. That's not just Toyota.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Thank you for that, Amit. Let's see if there's probably quite a few questions that we missed. I don't know if we want to pick anything randomly here, but
for it.
Because for pricing, inflations, let me think. Let me see. Give me key features. I think we missed a whole bunch of questions in the beginning, but if I go back, there's like 2,000 comments probably by now. So, but a couple of things that we still haven't covered. Maybe we can talk about. I don't know. Do you want to talk about the Mazda CX-90 engine? Another
Oh,
controversial.
I like Mazda. They're nice. I do like Mazda, but go for it.
Yeah. So the question was, in putting aside maintenance issue with that car, I think it's one of the best three-row SUV. It drives more like a European car compared to Toyota models, which are a little bit softer and not as fun to drive. And of course, Mazda 690 has a couple of different engines: the regular 3.3 inline six, high output 3.3 inline six, and then the hybrid system, which is just a naturally aspirated 2.5 liter engine. The plug-in hybrid, which uses a 2.54, is my favorite car, which is also the case with AMD. That one doesn't have the issue with the timing chain too far back in the engine bay, but the 3.3 liter inline six with the mild hybrid system has a very complicated engine. So, Ahmed, your take on those two engines?
I think the 2.5 is a decent engine. I actually like that engine bay. It's wide open, has a lot of space. This is when you make a complicated engine bay, it's going to equal to this car costing you a small fortune. Because you know what? The more we have to remove to do something very simple, the more it's going to cost you 10 years later when you're long out of warranty and your car is in the shop.
Mm.
This is the casing point of that. Do you know why the Nissan Skyline, let's go back in the day, the Toyota Supra, they were successful cars and they were loved by their community because they were simple. You open the hood, there's a
Yeah.
lot of space. But you look at the cars that didn't really fare very well. 3000 GT, Mitsubishi 3000 GT, even the 300ZX. You open the hoods on these cars, you can't even see the engine. They're just complete covered, not covered with covers, with components. The more complicated, it's a very simple recipe. The more complicated things under the hood, the less likely this car will fare well long term. That is the bottom line. And Mazda, they're such an interesting company today because they are changing their direction from coming out of their horrendous Ford time, and they're kind of reinventing who they truly are. And I love the direction they're going. CX-5 is one of my favorite SUVs. I actually like it a lot more than the RAV4 and the CRV. I think
I agree.
The car in that segment, that would be number one on my list. Such a beautiful car. It's no nonsense, but it's nice. So they come up with the CX-90. They hype the CX-90 so much. I don't even watch like car reveals whenever I feel like it's a waste of time. We can just read the reveal later. But here's my thing. They hype the car so much. They've worked on it so much. Then they put this engine in it. The level of complication. I mean, I tried to touch base on it on the video, but the level of complication in that engine was completely unnecessary. They would have put an inline six that was very basic as long as it passes emissions. It would have still been a great direction. But I feel like they intentionally complicated things to compete with BMW, Audi, Mercedes, but they don't have to. They need to compete with the likes of Lexus, Acura, even Infiniti. That was just a surprise that they went to that direction.
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, like more from an engineer's perspective, they were trying to be inspired by kind of BMW design. So rear wheel drive biased, inline six cylinder engine, which no one does these days. And then of course they also had to add the mild hybrid to help with fuel efficiency. And electric motor is also not situated the way it normally is in other hybrids. So it's a very complicated car. The timing chain is something you don't have to change probably for like 100,000 miles. I believe the interval, something like that.
Longer. I mean,
even longer.
That's the life of the car. Hopefully,
so if you are keeping the car for, I don't know, 3 to 10 years, this is probably non-issue if things stay reliable. But if something goes wrong and you have to replace some of those components, and therefore you have to remove the engine, then it might be a big deal. But I got quite a bit of comments from YouTube, other viewers saying CX90 or CX70 is a junk because they're hard to maintain because it's so complex. I don't agree with that, because actually it's a good engineering overall, and there has been no evidence that complicated engine is causing a lot of reliability issues yet, because we're still early in the game. But yeah, as far as timing chain is concerned, it's difficult to access, but you may never have to change it. So I given the choice, I still would buy that over a Grand Highlander because I like it better. But if I'm keeping the car for 20-30 years, that might be a different story.
Yes. Well, this is there's no car that is junk in 2024. There are some cars that are better than others, but I don't think we have absolute junk in 2024, and that is also power to the people, because people have gotten so, I don't want to use the word advanced because we've always been advanced, but I feel like people have gotten so into things. They educate themselves. They research. There's YouTube. There's the internet. There's all social media. People can really get informed properly. So junk cars can't pass anymore. I mean, can you imagine if we have a Chevy Cavalier today? I don't think anybody would look at it. But yet people bought it at the time because there was no resources to research. People just had to buy the thing and find out if it was good or not. But I think right now it's a matter of choice. Do you want to go with old proven, or do you want to experiment with new? And I feel like Mazda is pushing the envelope. I love the CX90. I think they did a really good job, except they might have gotten carried away with the engine. I mean, I don't even understand how they were able to develop this very complicated engine and still keep the prices relatively normal.
Yeah, relatively affordable.
Unless they're losing money, which I hope they're not, because that's not good. But I don't think they needed to go that far, because I don't think that inline six does anything special. That 48-volt system, terrible idea. You're going straight after Mercedes with their 48-volt system. And then if they would have just regular inline six, just take your four-cylinder engine, make it inline six, give it a turbo, and focus the rest of your R&D money toward the rest of the car, which has horrible closing doors, by the way. I don't know if you felt the same way. When you close the door, it feels like a cheap tin can. I think they would have done better, because the level of complication in that inline six from a technical standpoint is unbelievable. Simple processes you have to pull the engine for, and that's too much for a brand Mazda at that price point.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think, again, if you want to keep that car for a long time, maybe it's not the right one, but shorter term, I don't see any problem. And I think the jury is out. Basically, we just have to wait a couple of years and see how it fares in the market in terms
I
of
really hope they do well, because I love Mazda. I just like Mazda as a brand. I think they're just
it's definitely one of the more underappreciated brand. Most people know I have been to Mazda's factory quite a few times. I'm going again in October in Hiroshima. So that will be like at my 7th or 8th trip to Mazda head office and the factory. And their engineering is first class. I mean, the way they engineer, just generally speaking, how they engineer their cars, how they tune the suspension, the steering, and their factory process is second to none. Their factory automation is better than Toyota. Toyota is more conservative. They don't tend to adopt the newest tech always, but Mazda tends to try new tech. So different approach and different company, but also a little bit related, because Mazda and Toyota does joint ventures. They have a joint venture in Alabama where the Corolla Cross and the CX50 are both produced. They're built in the same factory, but on the two different lines. So lots of interesting thing. All right, so let's finish off by maybe just talking about last comment is about the future. So future is EVs. We don't know how much EVs now because things have slowed down, but also more turbos, more hybrids because of the emission standard. I think people don't realize that a lot of car companies are making decisions based on not North American emission requirements, but European emission requirements, which are putting a lot of pressure on engineering, because you don't want to design an engine that only works in North America but doesn't work in Europe, for example, which is why they moved to Turbo 4, not just for efficiency reasons, but it's more for emission reduction. And so those things are happening in the future. We don't know what's going to happen with the batteries for EVs. I do know that Toyota has up their sleeve this new solid state battery, which should come out in 2028, no later than 2029. And it's going to basically transform the whole world, because in 10 minutes you can get 1,000 miles with those solid state batteries. People are still kind of questioning if that's going to happen. I can tell you from my own experience that solid state battery design is finished. It's ready to go. All they're trying to figure out is lower the cost and to produce it in mass production so that people can buy it at a reasonable cost. But the technology has already proven itself. And when that come out, then we have potentially a reason to buy EV, because if you can get 1,000 miles in 10 minutes of charging, well, that would change everything. So those are some of the things that are happening in the future. I don't know, Ahmed, in your crystal ball, do you see anything else happening? Do you see anything else interesting coming down the pipeline, you think?
I don't know. I don't see EVs in them because for not some people have accused me of being, oh, of course you're a gasoline mechanic. You don't like EVs because they're going to put you out of business. I don't think so. Reviewing EVs, folks have gotten into this rhetoric that, oh, EVs are simpler. They're simpler than gasoline cars. Yeah, but they're also only the oldest proper EV was 13 years old, 14 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
We haven't really gotten to their real problems. They were not mass produced 13, 14 years ago.
No.
EVs are a lot more complicated than gasoline cars. And yes, the component wise, they don't, but the thermal management system of an EV car is just massively complicated. And the level of service required for these cars when they get older, I mean, apart from the battery falling apart, that's really the biggest cost, but everything else is going to require a lot of specialized repair, which I don't think the service side of the industry is actually prepared for.
Yeah.
Because you have companies like Tesla leading the way, hardly the leading company, honestly, for that is not a consumer company. They're just, we're the best and you just be happy you have our product attitude, which is really not people friendly. And I worry about that. If these were to become a thing, which I do not hope, whatever works for the people is good, but I don't see that becoming a mainstream. I think we need to come up with something better now. Solid state battery, that really becomes a thing in the end, and they were able to pull it off where it doesn't, your Corolla doesn't cost $120,000 because it's EV. That may work. I really like the hydrogen cars, but I feel like never really caught on because that's definitely could work.
It's a better solution, but then we just can't get the hydrogen, so
infrastructure
is difficult. So
I don't know about EVs in the future.
We don't know. It was promising for a while, and now we're not sure, because there's been almost like kind of anti-EV movement.
Just because people are going left and right and buying something because it's the trend and it's the fashion, doesn't mean that average hardworking folk that don't really are into the trendy areas are doing the same thing. They're not. People that don't care about cars were not buying EVs because they don't see it as an inconvenience.
Well, I love engine, so does Ahmed. So we like V8s and naturally aspirated engine, but anything with engine is great. So who knows what's going to happen with the EV? But it's been an hour and 40 minutes, if you could believe that. So we're having fun, and we could have kept going for a long time, but I think we're going to close it off now. If you guys like it, we would love to do it again. If Ahmed is okay to be a host, to come out on my channel again, we would love to do that. Let's give a big shout out to Ahmed for coming out. He's such a busy person, and we're great friends just outside YouTube as well. We both are, for example, have the same belief system and so forth. And so it's always a joyful experience for me just to talk to Ahmed. And thank you to all of you guys for being with us, for some of you for contributing, but for all of you guys for just being here and supporting us and answering and giving us questions. I'm really sorry we couldn't answer everyone's question, but we'll continue to do some of this in the future. And it's a big love from us for all you guys. Ahmed, do you want to say something to finish off?
Well, thank you so much for joining the live stream. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Or my side, I'll let David close out.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We're going to close it off, and we will see you guys soon in our own channels. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Thank you.